One could probably make a miniature documentary on the many problems and the reasons for them that plagued the original Silent Hill HD collection, where essentially the goal was to bring some of the older and classic Silent Hill games to what was at the time modern infrastructure on the PS3 and Xbox 360, but it did not turn out well at all. From needing to get new voices, often that were not nearly as good as the original voice actors, all the way down to the games lacking some of their iconic effects, like the fog not working right, and just, there was a lot of problems. I mean, you could probably, like I said, go over those in a pretty lengthy format, which might be fun at some point. But that said, it's frustrating to look, even though there were all those problems, and see that nowadays, unless you have a PC where you can emulate these games, or you have an older setup like a PS2, something like that, where you can play these games, there aren't really good ways to play the original Silent Hill games. And even with original consoles that could play them, there are versions like the original Xbox port that were not as good as well. So your options are pretty much just PS2 or emulation. If you don't have access to one of those older games, other than Silent Hill 1 also being on the PS3, are unfortunately lost to you, unless you want to, I guess, go watch a YouTube walkthrough or something like that. So this is something I was thinking about, and despite all these problems, I really think it's something that could unite the fans and enjoyers of the Silent Hill franchise in the modern day, is to actually get a new crack at an HD collection. Specifically, I would say, of Silent Hill 1 through 4, actually, in order to be able to play those classic Team Silent games, which, like I said before, are not easily accessible now. So I wanted to take a look at this today, and I do know there are some hurdles which we will go over, but I did have a question of the day for you, which is, just in general, is there a game or game series like Silent Hill, or even just a Silent Hill game, that you think is too hard to access in the modern day? I know a lot of these things can be, emulated through PC, and that is great, but not everybody is going to have a PC, and even if they do, I think there's a lot of people who are not very tech savvy to understand emulation well, and so it's frustrating to watch a lot of our games from when we were younger that were very important to so many of us kind of get thrown by the wayside in some cases. And when it comes to Silent Hill, again, I understand there's all of these different issues, and those kind of stemmed from issues, I believe, at the time with Konami and around their goal of rushing that collection to essentially meet an anniversary date. Because what they ended up doing was kind of releasing these half-hearted, unfinished versions of Silent Hill 2 and 3. And when it came to Silent Hill 1, yes, it is on something like the PS3 store to this day, but even then it has a bunch of glitches in it that the disc version doesn't necessarily deal with. Like, for example, playing through it, there are times where using a specific weapon on a specific boss will cause the game to glitch out in a high-pitched shriek. Even in particular, the final boss of the game can be completely broken if you use the wrong weapon, which makes no sense. Glitching out the game, giving the boss basically infinite health, or causing this loud shrieking noise that is just eardrum piercing. So it's not like those are great ways of preservation when it comes to the original games. You have the HD collection with its myriad of problems, or Silent Hill 1 digital with more problems than the disc version had. What sucks about this is that when digital media was touted, and when it's still touted by people, it's always pushed as like a, you don't have to worry about disc degradation, even though Blu-rays typically, unless they're made wrong, they're not going to degrade for like 100 years. But you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about it with DVDs. You don't have to worry about things like that. You'll just forever have the game in your library. But then you get to situations like this, where there is no real digital preservation of Silent Hill 2 and 3 outside of PC, and there's no good digital preservation of Silent Hill 1 outside of PC, leaving you with these very, very expensive disc games that, like I said, emulation or a PS2, or PS1, I guess, are really your only options for all of these. And yet we're in an era of Silent Hill where we're getting new games We're getting a renewed interest from Konami and other developers who are working on games with both this franchise and Metal Gear Solid. And there's this push to do new stuff with Silent Hill, which I enjoy and I'm on board with. Things like the Silent Hill 2 remake, I loved. They looked at what fans said. They looked at what the community liked about the games. They even mentioned from Bloober that they looked at fan theories and interpretations when they were remaking the game to kind of make it actually have that appeal that the original had to different groups. Because of this, I think it's great to see new things from Silent Hill, whether it be 2, Silent Hill F, or whatever else they do in the future, but there is still a group of people that I think is kind of neglected, which is classic fans of the Silent Hill games. They're not really able to easily access these games, like I said, without particular hardware. And that's where I think that HD remasters are supposed to come into play. That's where those things are really supposed to matter. I think in recent years, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, there has been an HD remaster era where a lot of different things have been ported or remastered that maybe didn't necessarily need it. And so then what ends up happening is people think of remasters as a cheap cash in or cash grab, or having collections like the Silent Hill HD collection where it was just so inferior that people think of it as, oh, this is better than not playing the games, I guess, but not much. And I think that if you were to do something like the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, but stick the initial landing more, you would not only be able to appease old fans and old franchise enthusiasts of Silent Hill, who really did help build up that brand to what it is today by supporting it financially, but also you'd be able to bring in new people. You know, there are a lot of people who would love to play these games for the first time that can't access them easily. There are a lot of people who would love to replay these games who can't access them easily. And as technology moves along further and further, it's actually not nearly as easy to just hook up a retro console. At some point you have to buy adapters or a retro TV, and as these games become more and more complex, especially with something like Silent Hill 2 and 3, where the PC versions in general were also a mess until fans came along and fixed them, you're adding more barriers of entry, and you're also making it so that none of that money is going to anybody when it falls on the fans to preserve the games, right? Like when it falls on fans to preserve your games, and this is something I don't think Nintendo understands when it comes to some of their classic games, like Pokemon on the Game Boy Advance, things like that they don't sell ports of ever, but people online on eBay can sell it for like $250. I don't think companies understand that that money doesn't go to them. So when they're against things like emulation and stuff like that, like Nintendo has been in the past, it's like they're basically saying, we would rather you not play our game at all. With Konami, at least, they've been pretty lackadaisical. They haven't gone after things like the, ROMs, things like that for the most part with Silent Hill, and for the most part haven't gone after fan modding and preservation projects, but it's still something where that money is not going to them at all. There's really no money going to anybody, because the only people working to preserve these games are people who are passionate about it, who never worked on them in an official capacity. They're working on it in a fan capacity. How many people would you be able to bring in, both series veterans or people for the first time who didn't get to play these games and can't right now, if you would release a collection of Silent Hill 1 through 4, or even 2 collections of Silent Hill 1 through 4 with maybe Origins in there and something else? If you want to milk it, I think milking it's better than not making them available. How much money would you make by doing that? How great would it be also for the media preservation side of it? I just wish that this would become a reality. There's no real reason why the Silent Hill HD collection on PS3 and 360 had to turn out the mess it was. There's no real reason why they can't do this. And I know, again, there's people who will say, well, they lost the source code, they lost those finished builds. Essentially, the people doing the porting on that generation of consoles, they had to build part of the game from the ground up. They were working with an unfinished build. So I think a lot of people will use that in defense of not doing it, and they'll say, well, they lost this, they can't do it. I don't really buy that. When you have fans like the team that worked on the Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition who are able to actually get the PC version of the game playable and working and looking better than it did on the original hardware, now on computers 2 decades later, I know that you can do something like this with modern hardware if you put money behind it, if you put talented people behind it. Hey, you know what? I know the Sega hire this man meme is a bit old, but look at that team. How can they do it, but a group of dedicated actual video game developers can't? Well, they could have if they had had time for that generation of consoles for the HD collection, and if they had had funding, and if they had had better access to resources. And so nowadays, I think it could really be done, especially after the lessons learned of that collection, and I would say even some of the lessons learned of the launch of the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. It would be great for game preservation, it would be great for bringing in new and old fans, and I think appeasing people who aren't interested in the new Silent Hill games, who just want the classic Team Silent experiences. There's a pretty big group of those people out there too. It would be great for financial revenue, which I know is the main thing companies look at. I just really don't see the downside to doing a new, good, and I'm talking well-made, not hack job rush, of these classic games, doing a new, good collection of them. It's frustrating to like kind of, I don't know, it's like coaches don't play, right? It's like you can float these ideas and still they don't come to fruition, and it's really a shame. I think it's kind of time to see these games come back, not just as remakes, but also as remasters or enhanced ports of the original games. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I am interested to hear your thoughts on it. What are some games you think would benefit from this approach? If you want to support our channel, there's a lot of different ways. We have a Fortnite code. We also have an Amazon affiliate link where we sell all kinds of stuff there and get a commission. And we have our own store, CosmoBunny.shop, where we make coasters, keychains, trays, and more out of recycled paper from comic books, manga, magazines, and more books that are unable to be sold because they're damaged. What we do is we take those books, we take the paper that is not damaged or able to be saved, we turn it into a new type of art through a new medium, transforming it into something new for your home, and we recycle the rest. Discount code DJAY123 will get you 10% off your first purchase over there. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shway.